Let's dive in. Okay, my first question's for Marion. First off, thank you for inviting us into the lives of these characters without expository dialogue. The dialogue is so, it's so nuanced and lovely. Why was it important for you to tell this specific story, gracefully unraveling it the way that you did?
Well, thank you for noticing. I definitely am very sensitive to dialogue that's being shoved into one's, throat in order to kind of explain things. So that was actually one of the biggest challenges with this film, because so much of the details happen of their relationship happen before the film even starts. So, trying to organically allow the audience to slowly figure out what's going on between these people without, too much expository dialogue was tricky. And I went back and forth on a lot of things with that. But to me, it's so crucial. The most crucial thing in my relationship with an audience is to trust them and to allow them to kind of have their own interpretation of things and kind of not be explained things, but kind of, observe very much in the way we do in the world. We observe things about each other. And so it's all connected in that way. I want people to be thinking while they're watching and not just absorbing.
Absolutely. And I was thinking, and I poured myself a lovely glass of Côte d'Aron just to get in the mood. And I did a lot of thinking during the watching of this. Question is for Idella. When Birdie finally sings around the fire, we witness how much music means to her and how much you cannot separate the two, I think. It's such a part of her. What does this moment mean for Birdie? And in your opinion, who is she singing for and what is she singing about?
Wow. I think first just thinking about that moment, I think that moment for her was like a release. Mm-hmm. And I think she was definitely singing about, or she's singing too, her feelings, and her feelings about Lane, her feelings about Fred, her feelings about just the moment, and everything that was starting to resurface, making sense of that and just releasing and sharing.
Oh yeah, it was such a gorgeous moment, and I love too that it comes sort of about 45 minutes into the film too. So it feels like we really, as an audience, sort of earn that moment. Like Birdie is gifting us with that moment, and how was the filming of that scene? How many takes did you take? Because it feels so organic.
It was very organic, actually, and I don't think we did many takes of that scene. I think it was, Marion, I think it was at least maybe, I don't even know if we did it twice, did we?
Yeah, we did. We didn't do it a lot, that's for sure.
We didn't do it a lot. I remember not having to do that a lot because it was just, I don't know. And I think we saved that for like the last thing that I did.
Wow.
So, like I said, it was a release, and it was an emotional release that I think the character Birdie needed, but also me, Idella, sharing Birdie and telling her story needed as well. So it was a very realistic, natural moment. And I felt very comfortable. Everybody who was around me, it wasn't just like, an actor that I just met today. These were people that I had been spending so much time with leading up to that moment. So it felt very much like I was sitting at circle time with my family.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like that showed, and it's almost like I feel like you probably were singing for your for the crew, for your colleagues, for yourself. Like, it was just a gorgeous moment. Okay, I love that. I love that, that happened later on. That makes a lot of sense. Intimacy, in my opinion, intimacy is such an important part of storytelling. I think it's such a crucial part, and that I think it's been lost in a lot of American cinema, especially in the last, 10 years. It's something I really miss in filmmaking. It can tell us so much about the characters. How does intimacy kind of move the story forward in your film, Marion? And what does it reveal about the characters?
I agree with you. I think intimacy is very special, and it's hard to see it, organic, just based on, who's the chemistry of the actors, but then on top of that, the chemistry between the characters as it was written. And for me, I mean, intimacy between women is what, sparks my fascination, interest, love, and the different types of intimacy. And I think women are notorious for, dating, and then when they're no longer dating, remaining very close, having this very different kind of intimacy. And for me, that's just really special and hard to communicate to folks who haven't experienced that before. And I think that was a driving factor in, wanting to explore different levels of intimacy, different kinds of intimacy between all these people. And then within the three of them, each of them have their own intimacy language that looks very different. It feels very different, but that you can tell kind of like what keeps them together. And that was sort of, what I was wanting to play around with in writing this.
Oh, absolutely. And I love that. Hannah, when you love someone, you know exactly what buttons to push, right? And the way that, your character, Lane, kind of communicates with Birdie through her words and kind of body language. It's kind of like a dance. What do you want audiences to kind of walk away learning about the power, both good and bad, of love?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I love the way you described it as a dance, because that's really how it felt playing the character, and also sometimes how it feels to be in love. When am I leading? When am I following? When do I have no idea what's going on and I'm just sort of listening to this innate rhythm of my body, which might give me good or bad advice? That's, I think, Lane is a character who knows she's in love, but she doesn't know how to love necessarily.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know, I think we talk a lot about how everyone's going to see something different in this film. People are going to see reflections of themselves. People are going to see things they don't identify with. So I think everyone will come away from Lane's story different. But I do think this core challenge of how do I love this person? How do I love this person in a way that's true to me and that also is responsive to what the other person wants and needs and is becoming? Because at this point, the characters have known each other for a while. And how does that love grow with us, or how doesn't it?
Absolutely. Lovely answer. Idella, same to you. It feels like in the film, Fred and Lane are both making either right or wrong assumptions about how Birdie wants to be loved or needs to be loved. What's your opinion about what kind of love Birdie is really looking for?
I think because Birdie is a person who values freedom so much, and just the freedom to just be. You know, she doesn't like to be stifled. She doesn't like for it to be, you know, staged in any way. She wants to just be free in whatever she's doing, you know. And I think sometimes in relationships, people kind of want you to kind of bend to their will in a way, you know. And I think Birdie, the way she loves, she's a free spirit. So the way she loves, she gives so much of herself, you know. And then after she's given so much of herself, she just needs to just be, you know. And I think that is not. I don't think she really knows necessarily like how she wants to be loved, but I think what she knows for sure is whatever that looks like, she needs to feel like she can just be who she is, no matter what she's going through or whatever, and that it's accepted, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
That makes sense.
It does make sense. Absolutely. I think that's what's so gorgeous too about this film is that it shows that there are different ways that we love as humans, and that even when there's love in your heart for someone else, it doesn't necessarily make it easier, or it's a lot of navigating and a lot of self-discovery along the way. Hannah, when Lane speaks about her relationship with Birdie and Fred, she says, "How could you not love someone who loves the person you love?" Do you think that Lane, in a way, is kind of asking for permission to stay in that moment to herself?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think in that moment, I'm just thinking back to that moment.
It's a great moment. A little smoke.
Yeah. Exactly. With Noah. I think in that moment, Lane is confronting, just assessing the situation for herself and confronting the reality. I think sometimes when you're in a relationship that doesn't look like other people's relationships, it can be hard to describe it in a way that makes sense, and you can feel like you're under constant scrutiny. And I don't think that Lane feels scrutiny from Noah. I think that Lane has finally met someone in this really isolated place who's open enough to try to understand what Lane's feeling. And at first, Noah's struggling with the concept of what their relationship was, but I think this moment where Lane really essentially explains, in some ways, the concept of compersion, of the love that you feel when you see love between your partner and someone else, and is able to say it, the actual articulating of it, of saying, I see Birdie loving Fred and that does something for me. I think that brings her home to herself a little bit in the moment and reminds her of the stakes of the relationship and actually what she does love about the relationship.
Lovely. I think I said this a little earlier before we were recording, but this film made me realize about, it kind of made me miss a sort of pre-pandemic life, when made me miss what I love most about traveling too, which is good wine, good food, good company. I just want to know from each of you what you miss most about face-to-face human connection. Whoever wants to start first.
I'll start because mine came up really quickly. I miss flirting.
Oh,
that I think when we're thinking about the sort of connection that just happens between people that's really what I've missed, flirting with strangers, flirting with friends. It's superficial, but I do miss it.
Also, there's a freedom in flirting, I think. Yeah. What about you, Idella and Marion?
For me, you want to go first, Marion?
No, go ahead.
Okay. For me, I'm a hugger. Like, I love hugging. I love touching people. And I think I miss that the most. Hugging strangers. I really do miss that. I miss like just being able to just like freely go up to someone and just hug them really tight, or from this, sitting next to someone that I know, maybe getting close to them, or I just miss that kind of stuff. And I also miss just the freedom of not feeling like when you're with people that you have to be very mindful of, connecting with them. You have to watch everything you do around them. So that I miss not having to do that. Yeah.
Good one.
And mine is similar to Hannah's, and I wouldn't call it flirting though, but for me it's just physical energy, period. And like, I mean, this film is so much a love letter to physical energy, just like what it is to be comfortable with someone, to feel drawn to someone, to assert power over someone. Like, all those things are things that we don't say, but that we feel and experience and act accordingly. And so to go back to your question about dialogue, I mean, I don't like dialogue. I like physical energy. So I'm suffering.
I wish I could give you all a hug right now. I agree. Physical energy is just so special. And yeah. And I just want to, before we wrap this up, I just want to say something that might sound a little random. But I really loved how I could actually hear and see Birdie and Lane eating in this film. Like, I'm reminded of the olives and the carrots.
Yeah.
And I just think that was, I don't know, I found it so refreshing. And it did the opposite of distracting me. It brought me in closer to the world. Brought me, felt like I was right there with them, sharing that glass of wine in that sort of awkwardness of not seeing each other for 2 years, and sort of being like eating these olives that clearly have pits in them.
Yeah.
It's a great touch.
Thank you. Yeah, that's actually funny because specifically the olives, I mean, again, it kind of goes back to physical energy, but I remember like, Hannah, you weren't quite sinking into that scene for some reason. And then I was like, eat more olives. And as soon as you ate more olives, it was like it was totally different. And I think it has to do with, like the mental to physical connection of what's going on up here with like what you're doing with your body. It wasn't quite right. So you always have to find the balance.
Absolutely. Great. I love that. I was like, what do those olives taste like? What olives are they?
Oh, I actually have some olives right here.
Yeah. And our director, he was so good with like placing them and making them look so good, and so he about a lot of olive trees too. So I was always craving olives.
Yeah, there were a lot of olive trees, but I think it's the fact that you said that it helped you drop into the movie, because those are the things that I think as humans, those little things are the things that ground us in our daily lives and our daily actions. So when we can find those within the film, I do think it has that effect for sure.
Absolutely. Well, like I said in the beginning, what a stunning film. Congratulations. It's been a treat talking to you today. Thank you so much for making this film, being a part of this film. I feel honored to have watched it and excited to see its journey from here on out. And yes, thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you so much, Meg.
Thank
Here's
you.
to physical energy. I don't have a wine glass because it's 11:10 a.m. But I would cheers you, ladies, to some physical energy soon in the future.
Cheers.
Thank you, Meg.
All right.
Great chatting with you.
Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.